ॐ वाङ् मे मनसि प्रतिष्ठिता मनो मे वाचि प्रतिष्ठितम् आविराविर्मयेधि वेदस्य मणिस्थ श्रुतं मे मा प्रहासीः अनेनाधीतेनाहोरात्रान् सन्दधामि ऋतं वदिष्यामि सत्यं वदिष्यामि तन्मामवतु तद्वक्तारमवतु अवतु माम् अवतु वक्तारमवतु वक्तारम् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ May my speech be firmly established in my mind. May the mind too be firmly established in my speech. Let there be perfect correspondence between my thoughts, words, and actions. O self-effulgent Lord, be revealed in my consciousness. May the truths of the scriptures come to me. May not what I learn from them ever forsake me. Let me live my life day and night according to their teachings. I shall speak what is appropriate. I shall speak the truth. May that protect me. May that protect the teacher. Om, peace, peace, peace. Let us feel the blissful oneness of the existence of the whole universe. One can think that I am just like an animal cracker, and so many, all others are also like animal crackers. Just different shapes, and according to different names. According to the shape you give it a name. Like a giraffe, or a rhino, or a rabbit, or an elephant. But they are actually from inside, they are one and the same. So also we have various different shapes, and accordingly we give different names. Like one is Chris, another is Kartik, another is Johnny. These are names given to shapes. But inside the same one substance. Let us feel that oneness. That oneness is the source of all happiness or bliss. Let us feel that I am in touch with that oneness. Immediately, one can experience the bliss springing out from within. Just as touching ice brings the sensation of cold, similarly touching this oneness brings out the experience of intrinsic bliss. This oneness is the source of all love also. The more one comes in touch with this intrinsic, actual oneness, the life becomes full of love, full of bliss, full of peace. Getting this, nothing remains to be achieved. Realizing this, the life becomes fulfilled. Om, peace, peace, peace. So, dear friends, let us begin today's study with our usual opening chant. Tava kathamritam tapta jivanam kavibhiriditam kalmashapaham shravanamangalam Shrimadattatam bhuvi grinanti te bhurida janaha. Sri Ramakrishna, as we have been studying here in this chapter, as a guru and sadhus of all various orders. So, we are on page 589 in this book, and a question had been raised because that was the opinion of some people, some well-known people, highly educated also, that Sri Ramakrishna goes into Bhava Samadhi, a state where he loses the consciousness of the outer world and feels a state of some divine communion. Now, see, there are two parts in it. This state that is feeling the divine communion is Sri Ramakrishna's internal awareness. That Sri Ramakrishna alone is able to see, feel and so forth. Others are not privileged to do that. What Sri Ramakrishna is doing, thinking, in what state he is, I don't have, or any other person, ordinary person will not have the knowledge of what he is actually experiencing. But the outer expression of it can be seen by others. Now, how is this outer expression? The outer expression is he is not behaving like a regular human being with proper understanding and awareness. He is, so to say, crazy. He is not, or he is drunk, or he is having some blackout, the brain blackout like epilepsy and such things. He is epileptic, and it is, since the behavior is not normal, it is considered as pathology. It is disease. If somebody is having all the normal behavioral patterns, parameters, and the other things like BP, and then the temperature, the heart rate and so forth, are like all other people, we call it normal. But if it is not like that, we say there is some abnormality, some treatment is necessary. Oh, the blood pressure is going down very much, let us give some medication, otherwise the person will die. So, whatever is not commonly perceived or normal, then that gets considered as a disease, a pathology, and needs to be therefore treated. Sri Ramakrishna's this Bhava Samadhi, now see the outer and inner, that behavior which is perceivable by all, and that awareness which is perceivable only by Sri Ramakrishna himself. Like suppose a child, for example, our Karthik sitting right here. So, if something has happened and he suddenly becomes very sad, the face is downcast, and now what he is feeling inside, that sorrow, sadness, he alone knows. What others will know is his face looks gloomy, he feels his head has gone down, maybe the eyes have become teary, and such things that from outside one can see only those things. What is going on in his mind will get logically deduced from the external signs, but the onlookers will not be able to feel that, will not be able to sense that. Karthik alone will be able to feel that. So, therefore, they say that the suffering inside, nobody knows. It is only the external signs become visible. Now the problem with the external signs is that the similar signs can be presented outside without any internal pain or sorrow being felt. Like when you are acting in a stage show. Did you act, Karthik, in any stage show? So when you have to act in a sad scene, then what you do? You make face like that. Oh. But inside you are not feeling any sorrow. In fact, inside you are feeling joy that you are acting so well. Those who are watching may feel sorrow. This person is suffering a lot. But you are not feeling sorrow because you are just acting it. So the outer expression need not always indicate the inner awareness, especially when they are not of the normal type. So, Sri Ramakrishna's that bhava samadhi, the state of samadhi, state of communion with God, how many after all experience it? Maybe the 1 in a million is an overestimation. So, therefore, all others, they see the outer signs and deduce logically from that the person is having some disease and needs treatment. So, not only in the earlier times, this is when Saradananda was writing this book, or when Saradananda used to visit Sri Ramakrishna, he could hear people's opinion like this. But even afterwards, even very recently, many psychologists, psychoanalysts and literary figures, they were big names. But they did not have access to this inner state of samadhi, communion with God. And so their deduction is, Sri Ramakrishna had a problem. And some went to the extent that Sri Ramakrishna saw that because of this, people are respecting him, thinking that he is having God communion. So he started actually faking it. Now, what a wrong, completely upside down opinion, that it is that divine communion was not only considered as disease, but a conscious cheating by Sri Ramakrishna. And because such people are more abundantly available at many such so-called spiritual people, they hold meetings. I know a few of them, that it was all cheating, that man would hold a samadhi session and would say that all would get samadhi. He had a very nicely, studio appearance, so to say, with properly that beard and shining face, and so would sit there and then would utter a few things, and then suddenly scream, and his body will start shaking. And then he would, as it were, grace people with that. And some of his cronies would be sitting in front. And so they also will start. And then the others, would, those who have come, they would feel silly if they don't also get it. So they also start picking it. So, and then the newspaper reporters would be there and they said, yes, 500 people got the experience of Samadhi in today's session. Now, such cheats abound, and therefore others saw that it is all, and so Sri Ramakrishna also was classed amongst them, that such cheats. It is, one such gentleman came to see me in one city. I had gone there to give lectures, and somebody told me that this man wants to see. I was hesitant because I was very tired after giving lectures, of a long journey and then a retreat, and then so many people saw. He said, no, this man wants to see you. He says that he goes into trance. So he wants to see you. And then as soon as he comes and sees me, and then he actually does not only see me, he seizes me with his hands, shoulders. So he held my shoulders and then made some eyes like that, and as if something is happening. Now, all others who were coming, who were with him, they just folded hands and so forth. And then asked me, did you not feel any, that spiritual current entering you? I said, sorry, but I didn't feel anything. I felt that some either madman or some cheat is holding me like this. Better give some healthy diet to this person. That is what he needs, some good diet. Maybe it is the brain. And same thing was being concluded about Sri Ramakrishna too, by Mathur Babu also, because he also was told by others, and he himself saw that there is devotion, no doubt. Mathur Babu was quite aware that Sri Ramakrishna is very devoted. But along with devotion, there is also disease, so treatment has to be done. There were others, and let us read this part here. The claim that masters Bhava Samadhi, the state of divine communion, is a kind of disease, is not new. Some of his Western educated followers also said that even during his lifetime. As time passed, however, the crazy prophecies of this divine madman were fulfilled. His unprecedented messages were eagerly accepted by people all over the world, and the remarks of those critics lost their force. Their efforts became as futile as throwing dust at the moon. People realized that those statements were false and rested in the satisfaction of knowing that the Master's teachings were true. This will continue to happen in future. This is the prophecy that has been coming true since many now decades. I have seen many articles. One earliest was sometimes in 1970s, I think, was written about this Sri Ramakrishna's having this disease, a problem, and then that was written by some Indian origin psychoanalyst learning that having education in America. And he wrote a lengthy article in an Indian newspaper showing that because Sri Ramakrishna had suppressed all the various urges in life, so that is the reason that he had all these abnormalities and these experiences. His brain was deranged. It was an expression of the suppressed urges. And there were so many other things he had written very derogatory. And then that person was not alone. Many others were there, and even as late as in 2000s, we saw that some such writings had come out. So it is nothing new in this. And it is understandable because none of these writers had any access to Sri Ramakrishna's that awareness of God. They could see only the outer expressions, and depending on their whatever studies of psychoanalysis or whatever they had made, according to those standards, they deduced this, that this is the expression of Sri Ramakrishna's that suppression, repression of the various urges. It is, and that is why his behavior was like this, and he got this disease also. There was a very, at that time, quite popular, and even now not discarded completely, the Freud's theory about how the suppression of various urges in life that creates the physical abnormalities. And I do not completely disagree with Freud there. There is some truth in it so far as the ordinary rung of people go. But the ordinary rung of people, they are at a level. There is a story told, that it is for different reasons things could be, the outer expression would be similar. For example, it is said that Einstein every morning would take a bus to his work, and on the way he would pick up a newspaper to read while the bus is going on. And now what happened was, that day he sat and then opened, but he saw that he forgot his reading glasses. So now he wanted to read the newspaper, so he gave the newspaper to the passenger who was sitting next to him and said, "Hey, please read it out to me." And then that man said, "Oh, I am sorry, excuse me, but I am also illiterate like you are." So, because he could not read because he was illiterate, and he thought that Einstein is not able to read because he also is illiterate. So, now this is maybe just a funny anecdote, may not be true, but the fact remains that people misjudge others depending on how, what field they were acquainted with, their own experiences and so forth. So, therefore, this is nothing new about it. So, therefore, Saradananda, the author, says, this will continue to happen in the future, as a blazing fire cannot be covered by a cloth, neither can the truth be obscured. It is therefore unnecessary for us to discuss this subject any further. We shall stop after quoting a couple of the master's statements on this topic. And an incident is given here. Reverend Shivnath Shastri, a preacher of the Sadharan Brahmo Samaj. Sadharan Brahmo Samaj was something that was started by this after the Brahmo Samaj of Raja Ram Mohan Rai was kind of overshadowed by various other reasons. So, but the movement, the principles were taken up, and all the common people were there, so they thought that it is an all-inclusive. So, they named it Sadharana Brahma Samaj. And then another great preacher and very well-known devotee, Keshav Chandra Sen, he rejuvenated it because of his personal that charm and eloquence, his devotion, his studies. So, but then because of some reasons, again as it happens, it split into two factions, Navabidhan and then this other Brahma Samaj. So, whatever it is, so this Shivnath Shastri was a certified preacher, teacher for this Sadharan Brahma Samaj. Sometimes he told that the master's Bhava Samadhi was a medical condition like hysteria or epilepsy, brought about by a nervous disorder. He added that the master's periodic loss of consciousness was like that suffered by people who are afflicted by those diseases. The master eventually came to know of his belief. Shivnath had been visiting the master off and on for a long time. One day, when he was at Dakshineshwar, the master raised the topic and said, "Well, Shivnath, I hear that you call my samadhi a disease, and say that I become unconscious at that time. You think day and night of bricks, wood, earth, money, and all sorts of material things, and yet you consider yourself to be of sound mind. And I, who meditate day and night on God, whose consciousness makes the whole universe conscious, you consider to be ignorant and unconscious? A fine piece of reasoning. What sort of intellect do you have?" Shivnath was speechless. It is like that everything gets illumined by the sunlight. Can you then call that sun as devoid of light? Calling that awareness of the self means you become unconscious. That is, and so Sri Ramakrishna gave a very fitting reply. Not only this Shivnath Shastri, even Narendranath, Swami Vivekananda of future, he also had studied a lot of philosophy and psychology and medical science. So he also told that this is all your imagination. But every time Sri Ramakrishna was able to explain very beautifully that it is that when Sri Ramakrishna was never unconscious, he was conscious of God. Just to give an example, suppose you are sitting in a cinema hall watching a movie, fully absorbed in it, then you are not aware of what is going on outside the movie hall. It may be raining and all that, but you are not aware. You may be aware of the bright sunshine that is in the movie and not of the rain outside the movie hall. So, similarly, when now you were not unconscious in the movie hall, you were conscious of the movie that was going on. Similarly, when one gets the capability of coming in touch with our true, divine, ever blissful nature, then what happens? Then you feel that, and you are not then concerned about the outer names and forms and people around you, just as you are not seeing the people outside on the street when you are in the movie hall. So that doesn't mean it is unconscious. The loss of awareness when somebody has epilepsy, it is loss of awareness. This is not loss of awareness, but it is intensified consciousness, which cannot be grasped by people who don't have that capability. So that is why it is like many times I see people getting absorbed in some thought. And then some expression of it comes in their behavior, in their outer, movements. So, but it is the outer movements one can see. Like I saw one lady, she was just had got up and wanted to start doing something in the kitchen, working, and then she went into kitchen. And then was a bit confused or whatever. And then I saw, I entered there. She was not aware that I am entering. Otherwise, she wouldn't have done that. As I entered, she was doing like this. So now, I could see this, but I had no idea absolutely that why did she do like this. Or she might have done it because why this Swami came here. So it is. So, but that is how the outer expressions are not always indicator of the inner awareness. You may deduce something, as the psychologists try to deduce certain things from the external behavior. That it is many times we Swamis are considered to be depressed because of those their norms, Oh, you don't have interest in these activities, you don't have interest in those things, and you don't have any ambitions, so you must be in the state of depression. Now what to say? It is, but that is how the outer, that criteria does apply to majority of people. And so that finds mention in the medical science. Sri Ramakrishna gives another such this. While speaking to us, the Master quite often used the phrase divine madness and drunk with divine knowledge. He said openly that for 12 years a powerful tempest of divine passion had blown over his life. He said, all things look alike when dust is stirred up by a storm. When that happens, one cannot differentiate between a mango tree and a jackfruit tree. One cannot even see them. A similar event happened to me, keeping me from differentiating between good and bad, praise and blame, pure and impure. I had only one thought, one intent. How could I realize God? This one idea continually dwelt in my mind. People said that I had become mad. So, that is the madness. Because people, they are not used to this behavior. So, they see this fellow has gone insane. Some of the scholarly aspirants who came to the master in those early days yielded to their exuberant devotion and took initiation and even sannyasa from the master. This is now starting a very beautiful incident, a beautiful episode, let us say, in this life of Sri Ramakrishna, where his nature as Guru, the teacher, is manifesting spontaneously, converting a person from ignorance to knowledge. That is what a teacher is supposed to do. That the student is not knowing things, the teacher then teaches, and after the teacher has imparted the knowledge, then the student also learns those things. So, and then wants to show the knowledge also. So it is, it is one child, I met, he learned some programming and coding. So when I met him, some barely 11, 12 years old, and he said, I can teach you how to do the coding. And he felt so sad that I said that, no, I don't want to learn coding. So it is. So he learned, and then when you learn, you want to express that learning also. So, as in the life of Sri Ramakrishna, so many such people came and learned from Sri Ramakrishna. And then that learning, the learning is of two types in a way, that one is only the logical understanding, and another is that understanding getting deeper and becoming experience. That is called by Sri Ramakrishna as Vijnana, Jnana and Vijnana. Knowledge, intellectual or informative, and knowledge that is deep experience. He would give an example that some have just heard about milk, some have seen milk, and there are some others who have drunk milk and thus know the taste, the nutritional benefits of milk by experience. So, similarly, some have just heard about God. That knowledge is just heard about it, God. Some have logically thought about it and thus got some intellectual inkling about that. Some have actually practiced that connection with God, practiced devotion, and then gradually felt that within. And that feeling got further, deeper into experience. That is how the journey usually goes, that you understand, then that understanding ripens into feeling, and then that feeling further gets matured into experience, and that cannot be effaced. The other two can be effaced. When it is experienced, then even if you don't want it, yet that experience cannot be removed. For example, if Kartik does cooking and then while cooking touches the hot pan, will it be a very nice experience, Kartik? No, obviously. He will say, burning. And then what happens? Then even if his dad tries to tell him, did you know that hot pan is actually so cool? He is not going to believe that, even if he tries to give him some mathematical proof how it is cool, he won't have anything to do with it. Even if let alone others. Even if he himself wants to, say, no, it was really cool, he will not be able to do it. That is how that experiential knowledge cannot be effaced. So, all other things, for example, the logic can be countered by superior logic. In his commentary on the Brahma Sutra, one aphorism is there showing that that aphorism says that the logic as such is baseless. You can use it for anything. So it doesn't have its own basis as such. You assume a few things, and then on the basis of that you build a logic. So there Shankaracharya in commentary says, therefore you see an inferior logic can be nullified by a superior logic, and that is seen. You know that anecdote told of a lawyer. He was a wonderful lawyer, but also is in the habit of drinking. And coming to court, he didn't know whom he is representing. So he started giving arguments against his own client. And then the client people, they were tugging at his coat. Hey. He went on and on and on, and just showed to the court that how his own client is bad, he is criminal, he is no good, he is everything. But then when the effect of the drink came down and he saw the client is, I said, no problem at all. And he began saying, till now I was telling what those prosecutors are going to say. Now I am going to refute everything of it. And he refuted every point of it. So that is how the nature of logic is. So the logical proof can be removed by some superior logic. But the experiential proof cannot be just removed by any other means. It is matter of experience. So you cannot really argue and say that no, it's not so. So it is, now they are telling about this one great spiritual aspirant. We do not know what happened to him afterwards, after he left the company of Sri Ramakrishna. But very interesting, that Narayan Shastri was amongst them. The master told us that Narayan Shastri had lived with his gurus like a devout brahmacharin of ancient times and had studied the scriptures for 25 years without pause. He cherished a strong desire to acquire equal knowledge of and mastery over the 6 types of philosophy. The Indian philosophy of orthodox type, which accept the authority of Vedas, is divided in 6 different schools. And many scholarly people, they aspire to become equally adept in all the 6 philosophies. So he was one of them. He completed 5 of them while living with different gurus in Varanasi and other places in northwestern India. But it was impossible to become a famous logician without studying Nyaya philosophy under the great logicians of Navadvip in Bengal. Navadvip had started a tradition of what is called Navanyaya, the new school of logic. And it became so well known, and it went so deep that the traditional earlier school of logic was just like a pygmy before this Navanyaya. So it was called Navyanyaya. So because it developed in this area of Navadvip in Bengal, so there is a story about it that it was developed because when Shankaracharya came to those places and defeated the logicians and tantrikas and others, as I mentioned, by superior logic. Not only that, the experiential aspect of Shankaracharya's knowledge. So when they were defeated, they thought that they were not good enough in logic, so they therefore concentrated all their energies in developing this school of logic. So therefore it became very well known, and the students would come from all over India to study it there. So he came to Bengal 8 years before he met the master in Dakshineshwar, completing his study of Nyaya philosophy in 7 years. See, you need a lot of perseverance to study these things. It is each school. He had already spent 25 years studying other schools, those 5 schools. So he came and spent 7 years to study this Nyaya school. And then I want to be a master of it by just studying one article in Google written by somebody who is also a half-baked this writer. So you require a lot of patience to do it. Without patience, no true knowledge can be acquired. So for 7 years he was staying there, and then before leaving the place, he thought of visiting places there and met the master at Dakshineshwar. So it is mentioned here, it was now time for him to return home. It was doubtful that he would return to this part of the country, so he visited Kolkata and nearby Dakshineshwar, where he met the master. Narayan Shastri was known in his area as a Pandit before he came to Bengal to study Nyaya. The master told us that once the Maharaja of Jaipur respectfully invited Narayan Shastri to become his court Pandit and offer him a high salary. But Narayan Shastri's thirst for knowledge had not yet been satisfied, and he had not fulfilled his intense desire to master the 6 schools of philosophy. So he was compelled to decline the Maharaja's cordial offer. We believe that Shastri came from some place near Rajputana. Narayan Shastri was not like ordinary Pandits. Along with his knowledge of the scriptures, he was gradually developing detachment. That is, the knowledge, if it is a really absorbed knowledge, if the knowledge has been actually absorbed, then the result of that knowledge comes in one's life. Now these 6 systems of philosophy that he had been studying, now especially the systems like Sankhya and Vedanta and Yoga, when you study them, that knowledge tells you how this world that you are living in, including your body and your mind, your thoughts, they are not real. And what happens is when you see it as unreal, you lose all attraction for it. As long as you see that it is real, you are carefully holding it. Like if Vitthal is being given, say, $100 bill, then he would say, hey, yeah, I got $100 now. And then he starts even planning what he will do with this $100. What he will buy and what other things he will do, all he started planning. And then he went to say, I have got $100 now, let me go to Taco Bell. And then he had it, bought something, and then paid. What will you buy, Vitthal, there? Chalupa, yeah. So he bought that and then gave that $100 bill. And at the counter, they said, sorry laddie, but this is fake bill. This is fake. Now, Vitthal gets a rude shock. Oh, he is waiting there, holding that chalupa in his hand, was ready to leave, already had planned to start eating. But now it is fake bill. So he had to leave that chalupa there, comes out, and then goes to just to verify, shows other people, is it a right bill, fake bill? And they said that, oh, I am sorry to say, but it is fake bill. After he confirms that it is a fake bill, now all his, earlier he was holding it, keeping it carefully so that nobody steals it. But now he knows it is a trash. It is a trash. And so what is he going to do with it? He tore it and put it in the recycle bin. So similarly, when you know that everything is in the world except God is fake, then you stop running after it. That is what is called a renunciation that comes as the result of knowledge. In Shastras, in the Vedanta scriptures, it is called Viveka Janita Vairagya. Viveka means this discernment that what is real, what is not real. And then you get that knowing that this is unreal, you get that spirit of detachment from it. Oh, I don't aspire for it. That's the automatic effect of knowing something to be just an appearance and not real. Appearance can attract you till you know what really it is. And when you know what it really is and see that it is not real, all the attraction for it just drops off in a moment. So, this is what was happening to Narayan Shastri. And then we shall continue to study this in our next class. Today the time is not much left. It is a very interesting thing that how they, in the company of Sri Ramakrishna, now the two contrasting situations, this great scholar had the tremendous mastery after the study of about 32 years on all these 6 systems of Indian philosophy, orthodox systems of Indian philosophy, had mastered them Sri Ramakrishna, more or less unlettered. Now, what Sri Ramakrishna was able to teach this scholar? That wealth that the divine touch brings, the experience that is brought, that is the ultimate source of all knowledge. Sri Ramakrishna's that divine experience would be just bringing the whatever the last point that was remaining in Narayan Shastri's that quest for knowledge. That would be supplied by Sri Ramakrishna. Since today's time is all done, so we will meditate on this teaching for about 30 seconds, and then if you have a question, please feel free to ask. Yes, please. No question. Very good. You have a question, Isaiah. Okay.
So, what is the goal of life
According
according to the logician?
to the logician, what is the goal of life? Well, to take the logic to the maximum level that it reaches, that's it. That is where most of these philosophical studies fumble. The goal of life. It is, for many, even this idea does not strike home. Goal of life is to become a better logician, like goal of studies of science. What is the goal? To study it deeper and deeper and deeper. There is no end to it. So, according to Vedanta, there is this goal that you realize your true nature. And then they say that is the goal, because then there is nothing remains to be achieved in life. So, and it is shown also that if you achieve anything else and think that is the goal, that really is not the goal. It cannot be the goal because there is still something remaining to be achieved. When one realizes God, then everything is merged in it. Then you are the master of totality, including you yourself. Nothing remains to be achieved. Otherwise, all other streams of knowledge, as Sri Ramakrishna used to say, they are collecting lot of zeros. Collecting lot of zeros. They do not add up to anything but zero. Take $0 and you will not be very excited. Swami, I don't need $0. Okay, $10. No, please keep with you. I am happy without those. You will not feel happy that they have any value. So, therefore, those studies never end. The life ends, multiple lives end, and yet you have collected lot of zeros. But if Sri Ramakrishna would say, keep one before the zero, that one is God. Then each zero also becomes meaningful. Then if I have put just 1 0, you would say, hey Swami, why can't you add a few more zeros on it? Because now every zero is increasing the value 10 times. Well, because of that one, everything becomes meaningful. Otherwise, it is all meaningless. That is how that goal in Vedanta is described. It is the goal. It is not a goal to be achieved, but it is the goal of human life. Yeah. So, let us conclude with the closing prayers. May the Divine, who is Father in heaven of the Christians, Holy One of the Jewish faith, Allah of the Muslims, Buddha of the Buddhists, Tao of the Taoists, Great Spirit of the Native Americans, Ahura Mazda of the Zoroastrians, and Brahman of the Hindus, lead us from the unreal to the real, from darkness to light, from death to immortality. May the all-loving being manifest himself unto us and grant us abiding understanding and all-consuming divine love. Peace, peace, peace be unto all.